So you've looked over the PowerPoint about kind of the intro to probability. Hopefully it jogs some memory of stuff that you've seen before on probability. So we're really looking at like chance events, right? We can do something over and over again. I don't know the results, but I can use probability to predict that, right? So when I look at probability, I'm looking at kind of the number of times that whatever event I want occurs, right, over the total number of events. So if I'm looking at, saying I roll a 6-sided die, right, normal die, what's the probability of rolling a 2, right? Well, how many 2s are on, so if I say the probability of a 2, right, there's 1 2 on the dice, and there's 6 total numbers. So the probability of rolling a 2 is 1 out of 6. So that's one way that you'll see probability written. You might also see it written as a percent, right? So this I could say, or there's about a 17% chance, right? So probability kind of ranges in that 0 to 1 category, right? So 0 being there's no chance that it occurs, 1 being that it always occurs, and our probability falls in that range somewhere, so 1 out of 6. Not rolling a 2, right? If I say the probability of, let's just say not 2, right? Well, if it was 1 out of 6, I can find what's called the complement, and that probability is going to be 5 out of 6, right? So number of times that event that we want occurs out of the total number of events. So I can look at this and kind of say, okay, if I can find the probability, how can I use that to predict something? So we look at this and say a quality control inspector samples 500 LCD monitors, finds defects in 3. So what's the probability that a monitor selected at random will have a defect? So if I'm using this, right, if I'm using this fact that I have 500 that I sampled, 3 that are defective, I can say, well, the probability of a defect is going to be 3 out of 500, right? So I can leave it as 3 out of 500, or I can say, you know, there's about a 0.6% chance that I have a defect. So if they want to know, well, if I produce 15,240 monitors, about how many can I expect to have a defect? Well, I can use that probability and say, well, if the probability is 3 out of 500 are going to be defective, right? I can multiply that by the number of defective parts, right? Or number of outcomes that I had, right? Or produce 15,240. Yeah, so if I do 3 divided by 500 and times that by 15,240, I can say there's about 91 monitors that'll be defective, right? That's what I would expect based on that probability. So it might not be perfect, right? But I'm just predicting, so that's kind of how I can use probability to find and make estimates for what's going to happen.